off camera, we were talking about, you were born and raised New Yorker, right? You know it in and out. But there are a lot of areas in New York that you probably could not have predicted would have looked the way they do right now.
Yeah, of course not. I mean, I think when I was a child, look at Crown Heights now. It was synonymous with the riots. And now, the other day, I found a new place called Butter and Scotch. It's a boozy bakery. I mean, who would have thought that hipsters would have been flocking there? I mean, I think look at the Rockaways. I mean, the Rockaways have just, everyone wants to go out there and surf. We have this revitalized sort of water sport community going on. I mean, I saw Breezy Point the other day, an area I never thought, could I have an interest in owning there? And I thought, wow, how cool is that? And that was so devastated by Sandy, and to see it now, how it's come back. I think New Yorkers, for when I was a child, you lived in these very defined parameters. I was lucky to have parents who took me everywhere, but to think that my parents, who are lifelong Upper East Siders, would have even moved to Brooklyn Heights is a surprise. So
I mean, that made headlines in of itself when Elizabeth, your mother, moved to 1 Brooklyn Bridge.
It did, and my parents are the happiest people ever. And amazingly, I haven't said where, but I'm also moving to Brooklyn Heights. So for me, it's very exciting, a neighborhood that I never expected to live in, but I've seen my whole family love it and love waterfront living. And for years, the waterfront was so derelict and you didn't want to live there. But now the waterfront commands the highest price per square foot.
Are developers nimble enough to understand that it's not one size fits all? They have to create the right product for the right neighborhood? And if you could talk a little bit about some of the more exciting product coming to some of these emerging neighborhoods you're talking about.
I think that you're not going to go into Bushwick and build a 5-bedroom triplex penthouse in the sky. Perhaps you will in 10 years, but we're not there yet. So I think you have to make sure, what is the buyer looking for, what's the highest price per square foot that you can command, and what's the land price going to be. So what's going to be the best way to look at a stacking plan for the neighborhood? I think it's important to, you have to be cognizant of it. I personally believe that, although it's interesting, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit now.
That's all right.
I think it's really interesting. Years ago, it was about the neighborhood. You'd only move to the specific neighborhood. But now I think we're in a product-driven environment. Whereas if the product is right, you'll look at it in Williamsburg, you'll look at it in Astoria, maybe now, or on the Upper West Side. If you want a specific type of apartment, you're going to look all over for it. So it's about the product.
So people aren't drawing those definitive lines anymore, like, I'm not moving past this area.
Well, they might have at one point. They might stuck their hand in their head in the sand a little bit, but I think that's why you have a great agent. A great agent will say, you know what, why don't you come take a look at this, because maybe, just maybe, humor me and you'll be into it. And we find more and more people are, oh my God, wait, I actually get it. It's not like the 1980s in New York where people thought if you moved, east of a certain area, you were going to be in the worst neighborhood ever. So there's not really, New York is so safe everywhere now. That's, I think, helped that product change.
What's the part of your job that didn't exist, let's say, 5 years ago? As president of a company with a hell of a lot of agents, but what's a part of your job that you didn't expect to be doing at this point?
It's such an interesting thing. The problem is, I never know what to expect in terms of being president of a brokerage. There's no formula to running a brokerage. It's not get agent, sell apartment, get commission. There are nuances to it. So there's some days, last week I fixed a sink on the 4th floor of Stribling.
No, you didn't.
I did, I actually did. It turns I'm a little more handy than people realize, and so I fixed it. But then I also helped bring in a $40 million buyer. So I never know what my day is going to have anyway, and that's actually what I love about being president of a real estate company. If I wanted to have a normal sort of quote-unquote life and have a 9-to-5 job, I would do that, but that's not my personality. And for me, I get up in the morning and I may be back-to-back all-day meetings, but I still have no idea what's going to happen. And that's a thrill for me.